Hi, welcome to Live Games. I'm host Anthony.
Yeah, I'm Francis.
And today we are doing something special.
We have a special guest.
We do.
And we're pretty excited. So we've been working with Juma for a long time, and we're excited to kind of be growing with each other and watching where he's going. So,
so we're gonna bring
with that. Let's bring him in.
Bring Juma in. Hey, Juma, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing really well.
Excellent.
Great to see you again.
Same here.
Yes. So much to our dismay, we were not able to attend Essen. We haven't been able to get out there yet. We've been busy like having babies and all that kind of stuff. So, but we're excited about what you're doing, Juma, and we wanted to take the opportunity for you to kind of share a little bit about what's going on with our audience. So, so with that,
well, let's start off though. To give everyone a little bit of history. So we originally met Juma back when he was just about to kickstart Clans of Caledonia. So this goes back many years, right? Like this is a number of years ago now, and it was a great experience working with Juma, and it was a huge success, that game, which sort of like launched you into your own company and furthering your library of games. I think is what we're going to talk about today. So where do you want to start off with?
Yeah, like after Clans of Caledonia was a big surprise for myself as well. I was just a one-man company, bootstrapped totally, everything on low budget, and in the end it worked out pretty well. It was released in 13 different languages, and after that, I did an educational game. I mean, we didn't like maybe make big splashes because it was only released in German.
Okay.
But I started Karma Games with a passion for educational games, and actually this was in the beginning my focus. Games about sustainability, about themes that are somehow, have an educational value. Like my first released game, Green Deal, was actually about corporate social responsibility and was used in universities.
Oh wow! Okay.
And then like after Clans, I was approached by a company, and they were looking for a game designer to make a game about the power grid and renewable energies and a looming blackout and the volatility of power production and so on. And that sounded really great because education games was my passion. And I thought, great, let's go for it.
Cool.
And so this game was released end of 2019. And this was also interesting because like I didn't like just develop it myself, but it was like a collaboration with them. You know, they had like an engineer as a project manager who helped me make the game, and who consulted me to make sure that the game is as thematically accurate as possible.
Oh wow.
And so they basically made the game and donated like a large chunk of the first production to schools.
Interesting.
So it was a really interesting project because of course like it's for like teenage kids, but still like not necessarily gamers. So I had to really focus on making the game really simple, which is like quite different from Clans, thematic but still simple. But it was fun. And so after that, I through an acquaintance, I basically got to know a game designer in Berlin, and he was working on a game. Back then, it was still called Bacharach in English, which is like a medieval German town. It actually still exists, and it contains Bacchus, like the god of wine, and he was very passionate about the game, and I playtested the game. And the game was still quite rough around the edges, so but I somehow saw like a raw diamond in there, and so I kind of, since we also had like this common friend, I kind of like trusted him and kind of had like the feeling we could do this together. And then we basically worked very closely together for the last 2 years to basically develop this together and to bring it to the state it is now. So I signed the game and he's also a graphic designer, so he's also now doing the graphic design for the game, like the cards and the print data.
Is just the graphic design, not the art itself, or is he just kind of like, or is all of it?
No, he's not the illustrator. He's just doing the graphic design.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also the video trailer. So we're like now closely working with each other. And yeah, I'm very happy how the game turned out. And it was a fun experience. And yeah, so the game is basically about thieves, medieval thieves, thief guilds.
Okay.
So every player is controlling 3 thief guilds, and at the beginning of a plan of an action round, everyone is having like planning markers, and they are assigning each planning marker to one of their thieves, and also to one neutral board where they control basically like city guards.
Okay.
And nobles. And so basically everyone is doing that at the same time, and then you reveal.
Okay.
So it's a bit like
programming almost.
Not as much,
or it's
because
like simultaneous action selection, more like
not you're not really selecting the action. It's just like you assign in which order you will move stuff. So every of your thieves has 3 actions per round. And basically you're just deciding, do I first move thief A or thief B or thief C? But that is somehow quite important because there's a lot of interaction with the other players. So depending on the setting and or the exact game situation, it can be crucial in which order you do things.
Interesting.
And what is really interesting about the game, it's like basically a pickup delivery game.
Okay.
The board is very modular, so there are 8 city quarters, and they're like double printed, and you can also rotate them. So they're like, I don't know, I didn't count it, but like probably hundreds of
combinations,
settings, combinations for the city. And what's special about it, the city guards are kind of neutral. They don't belong to any player, but let's say in a 4-player game, there were like 4 city guards, and each player would control 1 city guard per round. And so basically every city guard is controlled by 1 player.
Okay.
And they are basically patrolling through the narrow streets of that city, and they have a line of sight, and if they can basically bust thieves. So whenever a thief is within line of sight, that thief is busted, loses their loot and some victory points. So you basically try to move the city guards in a way that is hindering your opponents and not hindering yourself.
Gotcha.
And then there is a lot of stuff you can do about it. There are like equipment cards. I don't know. There's a smoke bomb which you can throw, so the line of sight is ignored for that round. Or you can have climbing tools which allow you to climb over walls, city walls and stuff like that.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. I'm looking here.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna throw some images up of the game art. So who did you get to do the art on this?
It's Miko.
The Miko. Okay, yeah. So
I was gonna say I was familiar.
He did Merchant's Cove, right?
Yeah, and Paladins of the West Kingdom.
Paladins,
Architects of the West Kingdom. Yeah, he's quite
very familiar with that art. So good call there.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like. I think the type of game, or let's say the weight of the game, is similar to the Architect of the West Kingdom series,
right?
And also the theme is also similar, like it's medieval. So
medieval,
that's why I thought it might fit really well.
It's interesting how the way that the puzzle kind of presents itself. So it does seem like it could be a little different every time, but it's like almost like you have this tactical thing going on and pick up and delivery, but you're really manipulating the board as part of your strategy. Is that kind of right?
It's very interactive. Like the city guard, sometimes it happens. It can happen that the city guards are really hindering your plans, and you have to come up with plan B. Yeah, you cannot in other games. You can basically come up with the strategy. You can more or less like try to perform it like to the max. Here, it's not possible. You really have to be flexible and replan on the go.
So, Juma, I think what really I think you do really well and you did this right out of the gate with Clans of Caledonia, is you nail the art, right? I think I don't know, a lot of folks don't really think art's a big contributor to the success of a game, but I'll be honest with you, like it's a lot of people can either immediately be turned on or turned off by a game's art, right? Like it's in graphic design so critical. We've seen and played so many like good games that just didn't become sort of like mainstream popular because they lacked polish in the graphic design or polish in the art, and it just didn't really like pop on the table. And like Clans did that. It just felt like a Euro. It felt like it felt like it played. It all made sense, which I think is what it made it so easy for people to get to slide into that game. And I think with your art style here, and the Thief game looks really, really good. It's called now Thiefdom.
Thiefdom, yeah.
Thiefdom, yeah. So in Thiefdom, just looking at the images immediately, I'm like, ooh, that it already piques my interest without even knowing what the game's about.
I was gonna say the same thing, and that when I know like when we went to play Clans of Caledonia for you, we were expecting something because of the way it looked, and then it exceeded expectations, but it fell within the realm of what we were expecting, obviously. So when you say like this is kind of weight level, you know, kind of similar to other games that like the Miko has done art for, when you come to the game, it feels like what you're expecting, sort of, and then surprises you with some things that exceed your expectations. That would be my new expectation.
I think that's also something. Not only does the art need to look good, but ideally it sets the right expectations. And Clemens is well known for like these Euro games, like Agricola, etc. So like so that's why this was one of the reasons why I hired him, because I thought like people who are the part of the target group, they will immediately recognize they're part of the target group. So
the game actually it markets itself just by the art, because people know what to expect, and they're automatically attracted to that game because of the way it looks. They know what to expect, and it's huge.
Especially like when you're trying to sell like a game that is maybe not having the most famous game designer yet, like Simon is a new game designer, or especially if you're like a smaller company like myself, or and also if you're trying to do crowdfunding where people are very kind of risk averse, because like it's a pre-order and it can go wrong. So you want that the customers have a very low perceived risk, right? And like having like the right art for the right kind of game can help mitigate that.
Yeah, you're spot on. You're spot on, and it's good to see that.
Speaking of art, I think this is one that I've seen. I think like a couple of iterations of maybe how the cover art would look. I want to talk a little bit about Millennia, if we can.
Yeah, sure.
So let's go there, because this is one for me. Like the box design is like very striking. So
yeah, this is very interesting, and go ahead, and if you're interested in any specific things about the process of developing it, you can go ahead to ask. So it was developed by Greek duo. One of them was living in Berlin at the time, and they approached me. And at the beginning, I was slightly like skeptical because it has a lot of phases. So it looked maybe more complicated than it actually was, but then I actually tried it and I liked it a lot, and so I signed the game. It is a Civ game. Back then it was still called Prometheus, because of the technology and so on, and so we worked a lot together with them, and it was also like a very big project because it has a lot of cards, like 300 cards, and 200 of those cards are like unique buildings, unique technologies, and so on and so on, unique wonders. So we basically have more than 200 unique illustrations in the game, card illustrations. And it was such a big project to do the art direction, which is now completed. Yeah, we have all the art ready. It was a Hercules task. And not only that, but the game is about technologies and buildings that become obsolete. So the core of the game is you have 8 ages that you go through, and you acquire technology cards and building cards, and they have a duration, how long they're active. So let's say I buy a technology card and I buy it in age 2, and it is active for H2 and H3. So that means at the end of H3, I will have to discard it because it's not going to be active in round 4 anymore, in H4 anymore.
Obsolete.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is basically like to mimic that technologies are basically, they have a lifespan, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, sure.
And that's an interesting mechanic. I mean, there are like games that have like this mechanic in a tuned down way. Like if you think of the leaders and through the ages, they're also, you have to discard them at some
Right.
point if you keep
Right.
them, but it's a really minor point of the game. Here,
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
the very core of the game.
It's part of your tableau, I'm assuming, right? These cards are in your
Yeah,
player area.
yeah. Well, you're in your player area, exactly. You're in the player area, and then what you do is you have a board, a game board, where you have a lot of tracks, and you can promote on those tracks, but only if you have certain sets of technologies.
That's cool. Yeah.
So I don't know. I need for the politics track, I need governmental and social science technologies, and then tap them or rotate them, exhaust them, and then I can promote on that track. And there is like a drafting phase at the beginning of a round where players are taking turns to draft technologies. There are always the same 14 technology types available in every age. But the duration is changing from age to age. So
Okay. Are you required to upgrade those cards while you have them, or is it more like maybe you go a political route this time and then you can pick up the next technology card in the next era, even if you don't have previous experience with that track?
Yeah, no, it's not like a tech tree, so it's not really like upgrading, but there are synergies. So for instance, there is also like a building phase in the game, in every round, and there is, in the building phase, players take turns to buy buildings and wonders.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you already see those available buildings and wonders already at the start of the round. So when you do the technology drafting, you can take this already into account. And I don't know, let's say there is an engineering technology card that you can draft, and there is also a building in this age that allows you to do something special when you exhaust an engineering technology. So the combination of engineering technology and that special building allows you to do something powerful.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But then you might have this one building for the next 3 ages, but that engineering technology only in the current age. So next age, you're actually incentivized to get this technology again. Otherwise, you cannot use the building anymore.
That's what I was hoping for. That was kind of the synergy that I was hoping to see kind of expanded on that. That's neat.
So so you said there's 6 or 8 eras that you're going through?
8.
8 eras, and those do they cover certain time periods in history, and is it going chronologically?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it starts in the Bronze Age, and then you have the Ancient Age with Greek, Roman, and then you go to Medieval, Renaissance, like early modern period, then Industrial Age, then late modern, and then you have like the current era, and the last era is even like the near future. There is some slightly sci-fi stuff. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
Fusion energy is invented, or I don't know, hologram call and stuff like that.
Cool. Is there any military conflict in this game?
Yes, there is. Although it is, I would say it's in a Euro way.
Okay.
So there is basically like there is like a military or a track, and players can promote on those tracks. And at the end of a round, there is like this war phase, and all players will go as many steps down as the lowest player on that track needs to go to step 0. So if the lowest is on step 2, then this player and all the other players go 2 steps down, and then all players score their position minus 1 VP loss for every defeat. So basically, like if 3 players are ahead of you, you will lose 3 VP.
That makes sense.
Okay, so it's more or less just where your position is on the track in comparison to other players.
In comparison to other people, yeah. So that's
what is interesting though is like it mimics war really well, I feel, because like let's say one player is not doing anything in military and one other player is doing a lot, so that player would have like 6 military and score 6 points every round without doing any further investment in military. But as soon as the first player is, let's say, investing 4 in military, then they're on 5, 4, and 6, and then both go down by 4 steps, so the one is on 0 and the other is on 2. So it is basically like they're like yeah, they both lose a lot of resources. Yeah, and then they can again like invest in military.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah,
that's good, because I think like Through the Ages is can be kind of take thatty with the military bit, because you're hurting each other's directly, right? You're hitting their board. And Nations as a civilization game, it's a lot more passive, where you're just kind of like, okay, there's a war, what's your rating, let's compare, and then you get points, right?
Yeah, it's more Euro-ish than Through
Okay,
the
that's
Ages
good.
in that regard, because Through the Ages can be brutal with the
Oh yeah, that is a
military.
brutal game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always worry about that with a Civ game, but you've hit on a lot of really good points, at least from my own personal
and you
opinion.
love Civ games.
I love Civ games, and I think there's really a lack of them in the market. There's only a handful of really good ones out there that kind of check all the boxes. One, I like them to go through generations or through eras. I like to see the progression through different technologies, which sounds like you've really nailed here. And I do like the more Euro-based combat.
Yeah, me too. Actually, Through the Ages, I love the game, but the combat is something that bugs me a bit.
It's too stressful. We won't play it. Yeah, we won't play it.
It's too stressful.
Yeah,
it's like without that, it would be the perfect game for me.
Yeah, without it, the system itself is great. It's just that the military component of it is so brutal that it's a large part of the game.
Yeah, especially if you just lose VP, it may be not as like brutal, but if it destroys your buildings and stuff, and
that's too much.
Completely messes with your plans, that's too much.
That's not done in the Euro style. That's just not for us. So,
exactly.
So I get very excited when I see new Civilization games coming out, and this one sounds like it's right up there.
And what was also interesting, what I would like to say about the process, we have these categories which were like basically already defined of the categories of the technologies, and then we have a ton of buildings, and we've put in a lot of effort to make it as thematically accurate as possible. So basically it was such a hard task. I was reading so many Wikipedia articles.
I can imagine.
Yeah, just to make sure the technology, like choosing the right technological invention in a certain era for a certain category. And at some point I was like a bit like, maybe not hopeless, but I was like thinking, this is like such a big task, and I'm not a historian. So I had the idea to actually contact my previous teacher from high school, actually, who is super knowledgeable. He knows basically everything about everything. He's like a math and physics teacher, but he learned Old East Persian for fun.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That kind of person.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I asked him like, would he I know he's very knowledgeable, and would he want to contribute and help us making these choices, which invention to pick for which age, etc. And he said, well, he just retired, he has plenty of time, he gladly helped. And that's what he did. That was great.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's you hit on that's kind of my pet peeve with a lot of Civilization games that we may play, is like if it's not chronological or if it doesn't logically make sense. So it makes it feel like you're not really immersed in the theme. If you're able to build something that maybe doesn't seem like you should be able to build it in that era, or if that synergy isn't there between the technologies and the buildings and things like that.
And then it doesn't really feel like you're playing a civilization game. You're just playing a game with civilization wrapped around it.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's cool. Yeah, we're definitely excited about that. That's awesome.
So how long? Yeah. So let's go back to, so you've got Millennium, right?
Millennia.
And you've got Thiefdom. Right. So both coming out. So how long was each of those games in design? Like how long did it take you to work through all the kinks and get everything done for each of those games?
Yeah, basically the last 2 years I worked on both of them.
Oh, okay. Simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly, simultaneously, and then also like on one other game that we'll
be talking about in a second.
Okay,
Yeah, it was very interesting. Also, like the cover, we were also pondering like how to do the cover. Like we of course looked at covers from other Civ games, and then we took a very different approach. Because I thought like the very core of the game is like this mechanism that things are aging, and then you need to trash those technologies and they're obsolete. So this is that's why we came up with this motive for the cover.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. All right, you want to talk about the third one?
Yes, I want to talk about the third one. Then I have some kind of general questions for you about just the production process and all of that kind of thing too. So let's talk about Peninsula, and I'll have to admit I haven't heard too much about this one yet, so I'm excited.
Yeah, this one doesn't have like the final artwork yet. It still has project graphics, although they're pretty decent for project graphics. And it's a flip and write game, so it's and pronounced as Peninsula.
Oh, Peninsula.
Oh, Peninsula. I see what you did there.
And yeah, it's also was pitched to me by a game designer in Berlin. And it is very special in that sense that it has movement. Usually, like when you have flip and write games, first of all, everyone can draw from a certain random set of icons, can freely choose what to draw, usually in other games. And the second feature is usually you can draw anywhere. And in this game, both of these features are not present. But first of all, there is a drafting mechanic. So there are 2 cards. On every card, there are 2 different icons. So there are like 4 different icons there on the table. And the active player is choosing one of those cards, and then one of those icons from those cards for him or herself, and draws that icon adjacent to their builder token on their map. And all the other players who are not active players are assigned the other icon on the same card.
Oh, okay.
So that means and they're drawing their icon adjacent to their builder token. All the players are also starting on different locations on their island. They have the same island, but there are different starting positions, and yeah, you're kind of forced to pick a different location than others. And so that basically means like you cannot copy what other players are doing. Like in other games, you could, in theory, like mimic everything another player is doing. I mean, of course, it would spoil the fun, but
but this forces you to, one person is picking one thing and then everybody else is doing something completely different.
Exactly, yeah. Plus they have different starting locations, and that also has an impact on the strategy. And yeah, so that's very interesting. So because certain icons give you, let's say, infrastructure that lets you move more efficiently. Without that infrastructure, you can also move. You have a few boot icons at the start of the game. You can cross one off and just move 1 hex further, or from one port hex to another port hex. But they're limited. You only have 3, depending on the map you're playing, 3 or 5 of them. And yeah, when they're exhausted, yeah, it's hard to get around. And then there are like icons that give you basically like arrows. You draw an icon, and then you draw an arrow or even a double arrow to an adjacent hex, from that icon to an adjacent hex. And along that arrow or double arrow, you can freely move without spending any boot icons. And there is also one other icon, like the tunnel, lets you basically teleport from a tunnel to another tunnel. So if you have multiple tunnels on your map, you can
get all over.
Exactly, they're all connected basically. And so this is the one thing. So the movement is really important because you can only draw adjacent to your token. At some point, it's a map with hexes. So you, in the best case scenario, you have like 6 hexes around your builder token. And when those hexes are already full with icons, you need to move, because otherwise you cannot draw anymore. And in addition, there are like random missions that are there for everyone, and they represent, let's say, the geometrical preferences of the monarch who has called us to make a plan how to build his peninsula, and though they have like there are like certain geometrical shapes, so I don't know, like it could be
Okay.
like a line of things, and then you can use only one of the icons to fulfill one mission, but you can choose which icon to choose from.
Okay.
And yeah, and those give points, and then you basically try to fulfill as many icons in a way that is as efficient as possible. And the icons themselves, they also have a way to score points independent of missions. Like they have conditions how you fulfill certain requirements, and then you, I don't know, you have a forest, a tree, and then first you draw it like in a shallow shape.
Okay.
Yeah, is that correct?
In like a shadowed shape?
No, like a hollow, right?
Oh, hollow.
Yes, hollow.
Yeah, right.
Oh, sorry. You're drawing a shape in a hollow way, and then only when the requirement for trees, for forests, is basically like whenever you have 2 or more forests adjacent to each other, you fill them.
Right. So you're doing like an outline first.
Exactly. First you do an outline, and then you fill them. And
Yeah.
only when they are filled, they score 2 points each at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And then the tunnels, for instance, they don't want to be adjacent. So if they're adjacent, they're not scoring.
Right.
And then there are towers who are having the double arrow. They want 4 or more different icons around them.
Okay.
And so on and so on.
Each icon has its own preferences for scoring, so you're gonna have to kind of figure out what makes the most sense.
They have an own preference for scoring and also own abilities
as well.
And then now, like when the active player chooses which icon they want to draw, and every other player has to take the other icon, are you required to draw that other icon, or is it optional?
It's optional. Like you can always burn an icon.
Okay.
To move one step instead. So that basically gives you a virtual boot, so you're never stuck. So if you were stuck with no space to draw, you can instead move instead drawing. And also there are ink pot icons that you're given at the start of the game, and you can cross them off. And when you do so, then you can actually choose the icon that the active player actually chose instead. So you have a few of those. You have a few of those. So a few times in the game, you can basically to take the same icon, but not too often. So
that makes sense. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
what is the so what's the theme and the goal? Like who are you playing as in this game?
Well, it's the theme is basically like we're architects, and this is kind of like a beauty contest. Yeah, the fantastical monarch has called the best architects of the country to make a plan what to do with his island, and he has weird geometrical preferences, and we're trying to please those as best as possible. So that's kind of the theme.
Cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, I mean the icons are like you have forest, you have tunnel, you have a tower with the double arrow, you have a boat with one arrow because it's a sailing boat, and then you have cliffs, and you have a village. So from those icons, you get a feeling. It's what kind of game it is.
I have a couple of friends right off the top of my head that would love flipping rights, and I would
really enjoy this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and this game is like, I mean, the rules are not that complex. You have a player rate, and like 80-90% of the rules are basically on that small player rate.
Right.
But the game is a lot more challenging game or strategy-wise than most other flip and write games.
Great.
Because you're really restricted since you can only draw adjacent. You can and then you have this movement aspect, so you really have to plan ahead. And
I like that.
It's not. I mean, it definitely is more of a Kennerspiel, and it's like it's not a family game.
Yeah, that's what we like.
Yeah. Sounds very interesting.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm looking at like one picture of it. Awesome.
All right.
Cool.
So you had some questions?
Yeah, I guess just one question, as I'm interested. What has been the biggest difference for you, kind of going from designing a game? I mean, you kind of were like one-man show doing everything with Clans of Caledonia, right? But what's been the biggest difference between going from kind of designing to actually kind of producing games, working with designers and things like that? What's been the biggest difference and maybe the biggest challenge?
Yeah, let's start with maybe the biggest challenge. Of course, it can be challenging, especially because now I'm like working with all kind of not as experienced designers. So of course, it's like a process to navigate their wishes and preferences and so on. And also in this case, like we were working quite closely together. So that's also like new. So you have to find a working mode that works for everyone, and to basically like balance different preferences or priorities. And the biggest advantage that I see is like I feel like it's a good strength of mine to be analytical, and I actually enjoy a lot to see a game, and then with much less time I can actually improve that game a lot.
Okay.
I think it also has a bit to do, I'm not like the biggest like I don't like to build prototypes at all. I'm actually more like of a thinker or a digital person.
Yeah.
I'm not as haptical, and so for me, I really like to think about stuff. And if I already have a prototype, it's kind of great because then I can just think of, okay, this is now at 60%. How can we elevate it to 80%?
And you can bring it the rest of the way. It's easier.
Yeah, it's kind of I think it fits my skill set quite nicely, and yeah, I like that.
That's great.
That's really great. That's cool.
I mean, it's obviously working for you. You've got 3 pretty impressive games in the pipe that you're coming out with in the last 2 years. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, and all of these I believe are coming out in 2023. Is that the goal?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the Millennia is already fully done, the whole artwork and so on. Thiefdom as well. We even have the print data already for Thiefdom. Peninsula, we still need an artist, but it's a small box game, so it's like going to be a very fast process. Yeah, I think if we hire someone within 2 weeks, everything should be done.
Wow.
It's just like a box, and there are like, I don't know, 50 cards, but like it's not a lot of artwork actually.
It's not like Millennia's 200 individual artwork.
No. We have all games already on Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, they're all on Tabletop. All right. Excellent. Yeah. You're going to crowdfunding with all 3 of these?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're now like in the last steps to define the timeline and also like the platform. It's like a bit tricky because, as you know, the shipping costs have risen a lot, and ocean freight and everything, production costs, and so it's getting to a point where it's hurting customers, and customers who before previously didn't like think twice to back such a game, they're now a lot more hesitant. So I'm looking at ways how to mitigate that problem, and one way is to allow, since I have all these games basically like almost ready. Also, I want to do a reprint for Clans because it's sold out everywhere. I still have a few copies in Germany, but that's it. It's just a dozen copies. Since I have like basically 4 games that are near production ready, I would like to explore avenues to allow people to back several of those games and then have them shipped together so they can actually save shipping costs.
Right.
Because of course, if you just get one big parcel with 4 games, it's going to be a lot cheaper than having like
4 separate parcels.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's not as easy to implement. Some platforms they kind of don't have the technical feature to make that happen. So basically, I would like to allow to create synergies for shipping and pass these savings to the customer.
Excellent.
You going to Kickstarter or GameFound?
Yeah, exactly.
Still looking.
Still looking. One of those, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's also now BackerKit around the block who just started.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, okay.
So those are the 3 main
options.
So you have options.
That's good. Options. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah.
Excellent. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or anything else you wanted to kind of share with our audience here today?
I hired an assistant, and so that's also a big step for me, and I'm
Good
quite
for you.
happy
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, so I have more manpower now, and yeah, let me think what else. Like, I'm also like very curious to go a bit back to game design now, since I have an assistant who can also do some operations for me. I have a few game ideas, also still working on the expansion for Clans, and so I have basically 2 core games that I want to work on, like bigger box games and the expansion, and I hope that I can
Can you
find time.
can you give us any hints about maybe the theme or something?
Yes,
A little
one game
bit?
is a whiskey theme. It's a
Oh,
worker
interesting.
placement
Cool.
game with a very unique mechanisms.
Okay, like a distillery type whiskey distillery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, very interesting worker placement mechanics that are very novel. And the other one is like another pick up deliver game. I'm into that genre now.
Yeah,
Me
so is
too.
she.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loves it. I am too. I have to admit.
In space.
Okay.
with a
Well, there you
unique-
go. You sold him.
Yeah, now you've got me interested.
With the unique twist, it has 2 solar systems, and you have several orbits around the solar systems, and then you have a random. There are planets basically that are randomly assigned to each orbit, and then they're basically rotating every round. At the end of every round, they're rotating, and the ones that are closer to a solar to a sun are rotating, of course, faster. So that relative distance within one solar system is changing from planet to planet, but between both solar systems, it's even more drastic, because like they could be very far apart, right?
And then you have them turn.
Or they could be very close. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you imagine those different planets allow you different actions and stuff, it gets quite interesting and juicy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have like a
perfect.
spaceship, and you can upgrade this spaceship. It can carry cargo. It has a certain speed, how many steps it can go per turn, and then you can upgrade this and stuff, and you can trade and blah blah blah.
Oh, really cool.
That sounds awesome.
That you've got my interest now. So glad you've got an assistant so you can work on that one. Get that one out there. That's exciting. You got a lot of exciting things going on in your space, which is great. It's amazing to see how much you've been able to accomplish since Clans. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's time that these babies are being born, because like I cannot wait to see them spread more joy to the people. And we're right now already in the phases to prepare Kickstarter or the crowdfunding in general. We're having voiceovers booked for the video trailers and stuff. It's fun.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's exciting. Very exciting. We're super stoked for you. And we'll be cheering you on the whole way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Juma, like, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for sharing all these excellent, outstanding projects with us. We're very excited. We can't wait to hear more about them. We can't wait to follow the campaigns along. As always, we're here to help you with anything you need, to put anything out there for you as well. Is there anything people should know to go to get more information? Where can they find all these games and look them up?
Basically all the games I talked about today, they're already on Board Game Geek. So it's a good idea to subscribe those games. And also you can go to the company website, Karma Games, karma-games.com, and there you have the landing pages of those games, where you can also subscribe to the newsletter. Those are the 2 best ways to connect, but I'm also having Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, Juma, it's a pleasure talking to you after all these years, and it's like you said earlier, it's amazing to see how far you've come, and we're super excited to see how the product should come. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed our little chat with Juma. As always, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, join us on Facebook, Discord, and support us on Patreon if you like what we're doing. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.